In linguistics, grammatical gender is a specific form of noun-class system in which the division of noun classes forms an agreement system with another aspect of the language, such as adjectives, articles, or verbs. This system is used in approximately 1/4 of the world's languages. In these languages, most oral nouns inherently carry one value of the grammatical category called gender. The values present in a given language are called the genders of that language. According to one definition, genders are classes of nouns reflected in the behavior of associated words. Common gender divisions include masculine and feminine, masculine, feminine and neuter, or animate and inanimate. In a few languages, the gender assignment of nouns is solely determined by their meaning or attributes, like biological sex, humanness, animacy. However, in most languages, this semantic division is only partially valid, and many nouns may belong to a gender category that contrasts with their meaning. In this case, the gender assignment can also be influenced by the morphology or phonology of the noun, or in some cases can be apparently arbitrary. Grammatical gender manifests itself when words related to a noun like determiners, pronouns or adjectives change their form according to the gender of noun they refer to. The parts of speech affected by gender agreement, the circumstances in which it occurs, and the way words are marked for gender vary between languages. Gender inflection may interact with other grammatical categories like number or case. In some languages the declension pattern followed by the noun itself will be different for different genders. Grammatical gender is found in many Indo-European languages, Afro-Asiatic languages, and in other language families such as Dravidian and Northeast Caucasian, as well as several Australian Aboriginal languages like Diabol and Kalor-Lagoya. Also, most Niger-Congo languages have extensive systems of noun classes, which can be grouped into several grammatical genders. On the other hand, grammatical gender is usually absent from the Altaic, Austronesian, Sino-Tibetan, Uralic and most Native American language families. Modern English is not considered to have grammatical gender, although Old English had it, and some remnants of a gender system exist, such as the distinct personal pronouns he, she, and it. Overview. In languages with grammatical gender, each noun is assigned to one of the classes called genders, which form a closed set. Most such languages usually have from 2 to 4 different genders, but some are attested with up to 20. The division into genders usually correlates to some degree, at least for a certain set of nouns, with some property or properties of the things that particular nouns denote. Such properties include animacy or inanimacy, humanness or non-humanness, and biological sex. Few or no nouns can occur in more than one class. Depending on the language and the word, this assignment might bear some relationship with the meaning of the noun, or may be arbitrary. Gender is considered an inherent quality of nouns, and it affects the forms of other related words, a process called agreement. Nouns may be considered the triggers of the process, whereas other words will be the target of these changes. These related words can be, depending on the language, determiners, pronouns, numerals, quantifiers, possessives, adjectives, past and passive participles, verbs, adverbs, complementizers, and adpositions. Gender class may be marked on the noun itself, but will also always be marked on other constituents in a noun phrase or sentence. If the noun is explicitly marked, both trigger and target may feature similar alternations. Common systems of gender division include masculine-feminine. Here nouns that denote specifically male persons are normally of masculine gender, those that denote specifically female persons are normally of feminine gender, and nouns that denote something that does not have any sex, or do not specify the sex of their referent, have come to belong to one or other of the genders, in a way that may appear arbitrary. Examples of languages with such a system include most of the modern Romance languages, the Baltic languages, the Celtic languages, Hindustani, and the Afro-Asiatic languages. Masculine-feminine neuter. This is similar to the masculine-feminine system, except that there is a third available gender, so nouns with sexless or unspecified sex reference may be either masculine, feminine, or neuter. There are also certain exceptional nouns whose gender does not follow the denoted sex, such as the German Mädchen, meaning girl, which is neuter. This is because it is actually a diminutive of magd, and in German all diminutive forms are neuter. Examples of languages with such a system include later forms of Proto-Indo-European, Sanskrit, Greek, Latin, Romanian, German, and the Slavic languages. Animate, inanimate. Here nouns that denote animate things generally belong to one gender, and those that denote inanimate things to another. Examples include earlier forms of Proto-Indo-European and the earliest family known to have split off from it, the extinct Anatolian languages. Modern examples include, to some extent, Basque, and Ojibwa. Common neuter. Here a masculine-feminine neuter system previously existed, but the distinction between masculine and feminine genders has been lost. Thus nouns denoting people are usually of common gender, whereas other nouns may be of either gender. Examples include Danish and Swedish, and to some extent Dutch. The merger of masculine and feminine in these languages can be considered a reversal of the original split in Proto-Indo-European. Other types of division or subdivision may be found in particular languages. These may sometimes be referred to as classes rather than genders. For some examples, see noun class. In some of the Slavic languages, for example, within the masculine and sometimes feminine and neuter genders, there is a further division between animate and inanimate nouns, and in Polish, also sometimes between nouns denoting humans and non-humans. A human-non-human distinction is also found in Dravidian languages. Consequences of gender. The grammatical gender of a noun manifests itself in two principal ways: in the modifications that the noun itself undergoes, and in modifications of other related words. These are described in the following sections. Noun inflection. The gender of a noun may affect the modifications that the noun itself undergoes, particularly the way in which the noun inflects for number and case. For example, a language like Latin, German or Russian has a number of different declension patterns, and which pattern a particular noun follows may be highly correlated with its gender. For some instances of this, see Latin declension. A concrete example is provided by the German word sie, which has two possible genders. When it is masculine, its genitive singular form is sies, but when it is feminine, the genitive is sie. Because feminine nouns do not take the genitive s, sometimes gender is reflected in other ways. In Welsh, gender marking is mostly lost on nouns. However, Welsh has the peculiar feature of initial mutation, where the first consonant of a word changes into another in certain conditions. Gender is one of the factors that can cause one form of mutation. For instance, the word merch, girl, changes into furch after the definite article. This only occurs with feminine singular nouns. Mab, son, remains unchanged. Adjectives are affected by gender in a similar way. Additionally, in many languages, gender is often closely correlated with the basic unmodified form of the noun, and sometimes a noun can be modified to produce masculine and feminine words of similar meaning. See correlation between gender and the form of a noun, below. Agreement, or concord, is a grammatical process in which certain words change their form so that values of certain grammatical categories match those of related words. Gender is one of the categories which frequently require agreement. In this case, nouns may be considered the triggers of the process because they have an inherent gender, whereas related words that change their form to match the gender of the noun can be considered the target of these changes. These related words can be, depending on the language, determiners, pronouns, numerals, quantifiers, possessives, adjectives, past and passive participles, verbs, adverbs, complementizers, and adpositions. Gender class may be marked on the noun itself, but can also be marked on other constituents in a noun phrase or sentence. If the noun is explicitly marked, both trigger and target may feature similar alternations. As an example, we consider Spanish, a language with two noun genders, masculine and feminine. Among other lexical items, the definite article changes its form according to the gender of the noun. In the singular, the article is el and la. Thus, nouns referring to male beings carry the masculine article, and female beings the feminine article. However, every noun must belong to one of the two categories. Even nouns referring to sexless entities must be either masculine or feminine. Generally, a word that ends in a is feminine and in o masculine. However, not all words end in a or o. In the Spanish sentences "él es un buen actor," he is a good actor, and "ella es una buena actriz," she is a good actress. Almost every word undergoes gender-related changes. The noun actor changes by replacing the masculine suffix or with the feminine suffix ris. The personal pronoun the acute él, he, changes to ella, she, and the feminine suffix a is added to the article and to the adjective. When a verb is used as a noun, it's almost always masculine. On the other hand, the result of executing a verb is almost always feminine. The following Old English sentence provides similar examples of gender agreement. The word hire, her, refers to lind, shield. Because this noun was grammatically feminine, the adjectives braid, broad, and tulu, good, as well as the pronouns co, the, that, and hire, her, which referred to lind, must also appear in their feminine forms. Old English had three genders, masculine, feminine, and neuter, but gender inflections were later greatly simplified by sound changes, and then completely lost. In modern English, by contrast, the noun shield takes the neuter pronoun it, because it designates a sexless object. In a sense, the neuter gender has grown to encompass most nouns, including many that were masculine or feminine in Old English. If one were to replace the phrase broad shield above with brave man or brave woman, the only change to the rest of the sentence would be in the pronoun at the end, which would become him or her respectively.